Plenty to get through on today's West Ham transfer news show. We're going to be discussing Keane, Lewis Porter, Watkins, Broja, you name it. We're going to discuss it here on West Ham Unofficial's transfer news show today. Hope you're all well. Before we get into it, drop a like on the video, subscribe to West Ham Unofficial if you are new. Check out our channel sponsors SIM Carver & Son by clicking the link in the description down below. Without further ado, it's time to get straight on in with it. Then we're going to start with a player that's split opinions in the last day or so in West Ham, in the West Ham fan base, and that's Ollie Watkins. Plenty of different outlets have reported that Ollie Watkins is a target for West Ham in the summer. And a lot of people have said, you know, he's only scored 10 or 11 goals this year. If we're talking 30, 40, 50 million pounds, he's not worth it. I would 100% take Ollie Watkins at West Ham, and here's my reason why. We went to Villa towards the start of the season, not October, I think it was. We obviously smashed them 4-1, and his off the ball work, which perhaps you don't see on the TV, was very, very good. I was impressed, and I thought straight away after that game, he's a David Moyes player, and I can see why David Moyes is going in for him, because he's a hard-working. He will score more goals when he's got better players around him. You know, he's had quite a mixed bunch of creative players around him. You know, they brought in Leon Bailey, who hasn't really done it. Coutinho's blew hot and cold. Yes, if we're paying this amount of money for a player, he should be scoring more goals, but I think he's got the ability to score more goals if he comes to West Ham with the likes of Bowen, Fornals, Lanzini, and Benrahma. If he starts putting in some consistent performances around him, then I think he becomes quite a force at West Ham. So the Guardian reported West Ham target summer move for Aston Villa's Ollie Watkins. But in the last few hours, a source that gets some stuff right and some stuff wrong, Ekrem Kanor, has says West Ham are ready to make a £40 million offer for Aston Villa's Ollie Watkins. Now, if you'd have said this to me a year ago, I would have said, nah, not really. But the reason that I think David Moyes is maybe doing this and putting more money on the table for players is, you know, we've heard rightly or wrongly that, more rightly, that those Rafinha and stupid Calvin Phillips bids towards the end of the season, they were probably correct. You know, David Moyes at the end of that window went in with some force. He didn't sign anybody, but he went in wanting good, really, really good players. He was prepared because he put 60-odd million pounds on the table for one player, which we didn't think David Moyes would do, and he did do that. So I think there's definitely something in this, because I think he's a David Moyes player, but we'll have to wait and see what happens on that one, because that's one of the many strikers that we're going to discuss on today's show, because yeah, there's definitely some other interesting ones to discuss. But before we carry on with that, let's go to the left hand side, and we are going to the left wing, where, according to X and many other sources, Keane, Lewis Porter is apparently our #1 left winger and winger target. I mean, the last winger we signed from Hull weren't too bad, was he, to be honest? Can Jarrod Bowen link up with Keane, Lewis Porter once again, like he did so greatly in the Championship? Maybe this is Bowen having a word in Moyes' ear. Maybe he's gone and scouted him. He's gone to Bowen and said, is this guy a business? And he said, yes. You know, if David Moyes wants him, let's buy him. Let's get the 15, 20 million, however much they want. Let's get it on the table early, and let's get it done. Because then if we sign a left winger, what's that mean for Saïd Benrahma in his West Ham career? You know, I've been one of his critics this year because I think he's been incredibly poor. But you've got to give him due where it's due. And that game against last game against Norwich was very good. Can he keep that up and maybe just put that on the back burner for David Moyes to Saïd Benrahma starts to consistently, that's the word, consistently put in good performances? But yeah, this is definitely, I think there's some truth in this. I think David Moyes is definitely after Keane, Lewis Porter, so it's something we'll have to look at. Just to move on to a journalist called Toby Cudworth, who's the head of UK written content on the 90-Minute Football podcast. So perhaps things aren't as reliable here, but he says West Ham are known admirers of Yuri Tielemans. Potential asking price of less than £40 million will attract many clubs, but he says still big focus on Burnley's Josh Brownhill for the Hammers at the moment. He'd be a very smart signing. So let's break that down on you. There's been some discussions over the last few weeks whether this season Thomas Souček has been up to scratch. Many have said, yes, he's ran 12k a game. Many have said, no, he hasn't been good enough. I'd lean more towards he hasn't been good enough. But, you know, you've got to commend and you've got to put your hands together for his running, because it is good. But we can all clap our hands for his running, but his running isn't doing anything for the team, is it? He is running around, but when he gets the ball, teams have obviously targeted with Thomas Souček. If you put 2 or 3 around him, he's not good enough on the ball. He's not a good passer of the football, and you can easily put 2 men on him and nick the ball off him. He's quite slow at times. He's not scoring as many goals. I get what people are saying about the work rate side of things. If that work rate is leading to something, yes, people will say, look at the physical presence we missed against Arsenal. I get that, but I think that's more Dawson than Souček, to be honest, because I think Dawson would have been there and his head would have been on both of those set pieces that ended up in the back of the net. So perhaps Yuri Tielemans is the way to go. How old is Yuri Tielemans? Because we had this discussion last year. How old is he? He is 25, so he's still, he's probably at his peak of his career. He's at his prime age, which is good. Maybe something that David Moyes will be looking at. And then the other option of Josh Brownhill. I mean, no other journalist has really mentioned Josh Brownhill, so I'm not going to really dive too deeply into that one. Right, next up then, let's talk about Armando Brosia. This is a funny one. So according to X, Armando Brosia is one of our targets who has been listed and reported elsewhere that he could be wanted by David Moyes this summer. Armando Brosia is a funny player, isn't he? Because he seems to have some really good games where he turns it on. I mean, against us in the cup, I was there. I thought he was very, very good. Down on the south coast, but he seemed to, towards the end of the season, when Southampton have gone to pot a little bit, he's kind of disappeared into the face of the earth. He's been put on the bench. Nothing really has come from him in the last few weeks. I mean, I don't avidly follow Southampton, but what I've seen of it and what a few Southampton fans I've heard say is that he hasn't really done anything since Southampton have declined in form again. Because they're a funny side, Southampton. They have some really good games. They have 5 good games, 5 awful games. 5 good games, 5 awful games. And it sounds like Armando Broja disappears in that period where they're not doing so well. But when he was on it and when we saw him in the Premier League this year, I think we should look and just inquire to Chelsea about how much the asking price will be for Armando Broja, because no doubt they want to sell him. They're a selling club and it's just another player at the end of the day. So I think they will sell him to us, to Southampton, to a bigger club. Who knows? But I think if we can get Europa League, it's an attraction for Armando Broja, because Southampton are finishing 15th or 14th or something like that. All of a sudden, you move up into Europe, then things start to get better, and his performances might get better. But it's definitely one that I think David Moyes will be looking at. And finally, we couldn't do a striker special without talking about flipping Eddie Nketiah, could we? According to the Standard, the Guardian, and any other newspaper, West Ham would find a fine tactical fit, a hard running forward capable to lead the line. Could Eddie Nketiah be the perfect striker solution for David Moyes? No, is the answer to that. But apparently West Ham have emerged as favourites to sign striker Eddie Nketiah, but Arsenal are keen to keep the 22-year-old. You look at it and we're in pole position to sign Eddie Nketiah. No, we're not, because we're not going to sign him. David Moyes might be a fan of him, but I can't see it, to be honest with you. I really can't see it, with Declan Rice going and Eddie, smacking him down a few weeks ago at the London Stadium. I don't think he's good enough. Putting that joke to the side, I don't think he's good enough for the Premier League. Yes, he started to score a few goals for Arsenal, but he's not #1 striker Premier League quality. When I look at the other ones we've mentioned today, Ollie Watkins, Armando Broja, Eddie Nketiah is nowhere near that, in my opinion. I'm not a fan of Eddie Nketiah. He's got a few goals, but a couple of them have been unforced errors. The Christensen one against Chelsea, the Meslier one against Leeds at the weekend. I don't think he's the business, and I don't think we should be going anywhere near him, to be honest with you. But if David Moyes does, we'll back him, because in Moyes we trust, But anyway, that's the West Ham transfer news show done. I thought, we haven't got Europe this week, so I've got to create some content. All the striker stuff is starting to come out, so what better time to talk about Watkins, Broja, and Nketiah, Lewis Porter on the left-hand side, and a couple more. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to West Ham Official. Come on, you minds. I'll see you soon right here for some more content. And until then, bye-bye.